Bam. Boom. Welcome to this week's Slack chat. Kelvin had a great question on key intel and levers to focus on. Kelvin, if you don't mind, just dropping that in, let us know what it is this topic is going to be, and let's dive deep.
Yeah, just thinking, every day, let's say, I wake up, I'm thinking about a client. What should I be focusing on? Every day is a new day. The market's been moving, the customers have been responding or not, something has changed. What should I look at? So there's things that are the long-term focus, medium, and pretty much a daily focus. So my question was, what's the key intel and levers to focus on? And I threw a list in on the Slack, which I'm not going to go through the list, but you have it in front of you. But essentially, at the high end, it's things like business model, business objectives, the unit economics, and then a whole slew of other things. And I guess kind of the base of this question is, how do you think about it when you look at, you've got multiple clients, you have to go back in and look and see where things are at. What's running through your head? What are you looking at? Medium term, long term? What are the levers you're looking at, leveraging?
Love it. So yeah, I like a lot of the stuff that you had in here, and we'll put it in the description of the video when we put it inside the Slack channel. But I would say there's really about 3 or 4 things that I'm looking at. First thing is really getting my measurement down. So Scrum Doc, Ecosystem ROAS. I want to know, where's the money going? Where's it coming back? What is the flow of dollars, investment and return? You got to know that before anything. That is your roadmap. That is your key to really understanding what the hell is going on. So next thing I really try to take a look at is what you wrote down here is the key D2C equation, which is absolutely important, which is COGS plus CPA, that number divided by the LTV. Understanding where is the greatest opportunity for success. I really want to know that number. And I want to know that number very specifically, because now that I know what my landscape is, I want to see, of that landscape, where do I have the most opportunity, and where do I have what is my biggest liability? And if I can know in a very hyperbolic way those data points, then I think I'm going to be in a much better place. The idea there basically being, I want to know when I spend my money, where's the absolute best place to do it? And when I spend my money, where is the absolute worst place to do it? If I can understand that right off the bat, then I'm ultimately giving myself the best opportunity to see some success. And I think that is really important, because part of the biggest, if I had to say the biggest issue that I see of most people make, is that they're not focused on how to get the best upside of their investments. And when you're trying to optimize your account, you need to understand what is best fit for me and what is the worst fit for me. And if you don't know, then you're going to be in a very difficult place, because ultimately you're going to be chasing very short window metrics. And the reason I say all of that is because getting to point 3 of what I'm looking at, once I know those things, my focus is going to be on, how do I make sure that I have a plan to transition from point A to point B. And that generally means that point B ends up being like point M or something, right? Like there's a lot of steps in between. And that roadmap will change. But the real big important thing is that I understand what is my landscape, what is the value of each one of those efforts. And then based on that, where do I want to spend my, which of those efforts do I have the best opportunity with, and which one's my biggest liability? And then how do I leverage my largest amount of investment into where I'm going to have the best opportunity? And where do I have the largest issue? Because my investment is going towards something that is ultimately a liability and not an asset to my bottom line. So those are the things that are very important to me. And those are things where ultimately the business model, the runway of time and budget and risk tolerance, AOB, LTV, the core competencies, all of those are important. But what we're looking at here is stuff that is a result of all of those data points. If you know what offer gives you the best LTV and where your money gives you the best opportunity for success, that's because of all of those other things. So I think it's very important to know what those things are. And then we can start to focus in on, okay, based on this, we know where we need to start investing more time and energy. We know where we want to start putting in more time and effort into making things better. We know where we want to invest our resources of most value because we have an idea of where our dollars are going and what we're going to get out of it, which ultimately leads us to the problem and solution scenario of best choice for me, which is ultimately, how do I get the most amount of volume to the lever, how do I get the most amount of volume to the path of the best opportunity? And then where is the bottleneck in that path that I can improve? As far as I'm concerned, everything that you need to do in a business is sort of an output of that problem-solving mentality. And because of that, I think that that is of the utmost importance right away. So when I'm looking to see what's successful, what's not successful, what's going to really help me, what's not, and what do I want to look at first, it really comes down to understanding my landscape, identifying my opportunities and my liabilities, and then figuring out how to maximize the volume of my best opportunity while reducing my exposure to my biggest liability, and then fixing the problem of the bottleneck that is preventing that greatest opportunity from being better. And oftentimes this might mean we've got 4 offers, 5 offers. We do a couple of them well, we do a couple of them not so well. We're trying things out, and 1 or 2 of these is actually pretty good. One of them might be a $19 offer with a $50 LTV, great. And another one is a $39 offer with a $200 LTV, great. I'm going to then see which one of those can I really optimize my, my path to. It might be the 19 because I know I can get my conversion rate on that when I'm trying to sell that to people. My cost per acquisition on that offer might be $30. So I have a $20 upside versus that $39 offer might be $100 to make the sale, which is still a great upside, but a lot more difficult. I might not have the budget to support that. Or maybe it costs me $50 to sell the 39 thing that's worth $200, and it costs me $30 to sell the 19 thing that's worth $50. Well, now I know based on that margin, that $39 offer is my home run. That is my thing. And so my entire business needs to be focused on how do I maximize the volume of that thing? And when I maximize my volume, ultimately, I'm going to find a spot in the customer journey where there's a breakdown. Maybe 90% of the people that click on that ad stick around. 75% of them, go to the next page. 25% of them add to cart and 3 convert. Well, then I know that there's 2 big drop-off points in that customer journey. Something about the add to cart page or the checkout experience. There's something wrong there. And if I can make a 10 or 15% change there, that means I can make a 20 to 30% increase in my investment at the top of the funnel. So I can massively scale my entire account by fixing one little piece further down. And I can really maximize my ability to test and improve that effort because I'm ramping up the volume of traffic and the volume of interested parties, not only in volume, but in quality to that net end result. So if I'm getting more and more better and better people to go there, and ultimately I can funnel everybody into one thing. Then instead of having a couple hundred people here, 1,000 people there, a couple hundred people over here, and all sorts of stuff, it is 4,000 people a week right here. Maybe next week it's 4,500. The week after that, maybe it's 5K because I'm getting a little bit more efficient at stuff. Maybe I'm able to spend a little bit more money, but it's all in one thing. And because I'm prioritizing just that effort, the quality of that individual is going to improve as well. That means that I'm going to, in a very simple way, be able to isolate that roadblock, that bottleneck. And if I can make it a little bit better, I can have game-changing account maneuvers at the top of the funnel to really push people through. Because now, instead of that pipe being this big, now it's this big. And I can push 5 times as many people through it. So that's really what I'm looking at. And it really comes down to, one, on the supply side of my inventory, making sure that the quality of my traffic and the volume of it is steady or improving. And generally that happens by simplifying my ad account, leaning into machine learning, and improving my quality of my ads through creative testing. And then the other side of it is figuring out where is the breakdown in the customer journey after the click and making that better. Now, maybe your checkout process is great, but you're only getting 5% of people to buy a second time. Maybe the roadblock for you, maybe that bottleneck is getting 5% of the people to buy from you again to 10%. That might increase your LTV significantly. And if your LTV increases significantly, that means you can spend more money at the top of the funnel because you have a larger margin. So if you needed a $32, if you needed a $30 sale before, maybe now you can afford a 35, or maybe it was a 50 before, you can afford a 55 because you've increased your average LTV by 10 bucks. You can have a larger CPA of $5. And if your average cost is 50 bucks, going from 50 to 55 likely means you're spending at least 10, 15, 20% more. So you've scaled your entire account by figuring out the one bottleneck, the one roadblock, and maximizing that equation of CPA plus COGS divided by LTV. Everything else in the business is keeping the lights on, making sure that things are good, keeping that momentum. And once we break it down to just those things, growth is extremely simple. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with product quality. This doesn't have anything to do with customer service. Maybe those things are the roadblock, in which case, great. I worked for a SaaS brand, and the biggest roadblock we have was customer retention. And no ad was going to fix the user experience after they subscribed to the SaaS product. Improving the product improved the LTV, allowed us to spend more money at the top of the funnel, and also improved the CPA a bit because we had a larger volume of people sticking around. and the product was better. And so just word of mouth, and customer user sentiment improved. But ultimately, those decisions that occur outside of the platform and after the click, when growth is your objective, need to be figuring out, how do we solve the problem that will create the biggest change? Ultimately, in a selfish way, you can think of it as this: you gave me $1,000 a day budget. Why isn't it $2,000? What is the problem with what happens after my job is done that doesn't allow me to do twice as much? And if I can pinpoint the entire problem solving to fixing that thing, it becomes extremely difficult to fail. Because ultimately we know the only thing we need to focus on. And if other shit gets in the way of solving that, just like having 5 campaigns, maybe you've got 5 efforts inside of your business that ultimately are a liability to your success and not something you should really be leaning on. And I think that when I'm working with businesses, that's the biggest thing, is I'm trying to make Facebook stable. I'm trying to make those results reliable and projectable so that I can fix what's preventing me from spending twice as much. And I think one of the biggest issues is people try to say, well, how do I get 10% more? How do I get 20% more? Oh, I had a great CPA. How do I double my spend? And they're forgetting that the Facebook side of the business is such a small piece of the puzzle. It is the fuel to the fire. It's the pouring gasoline on something. But the thing you're pouring the gasoline on is fundamentally so much more important. That's why Facebook should be easy. It should take very little time. It should be something that you've got a very clear control, that you're testing variables to improve. And the primary focus of that is higher volume, higher quality into that roadblock, into that bottleneck. And everything else that you're doing is fixing that bottleneck so that you can allow your acquisition to be run at a higher volume or lower efficiency. And it ultimately comes back to that question. What is wrong with the business that won't allow me to spend twice as much? If you can figure that out, you're going to be great. And the answer to that problem is very, very rarely a Facebook answer. So our job is to make sure that we run Facebook in a way that allows you to solve that problem. So it's a very long-winded answer to your question, Kelvin, but I hope that gets us to where something that is really helpful.
Definitely really helpful. My takeaway is the list of items that I originally put down, they're really down in the weeds stuff, all about execution, monitoring, taking next step actions. But your answer was really, the focus was on like 90-day plan issues. Where are we going? Or where do we want to go? Why? What's our strategy to get there? And then getting into execution. So a follow-up question would be, if you're working with a client who is unsure of their why or where they want to go or strategy to achieve it, and assuming it's a business vertical you don't have previous experience in, how would you get up to speed so you can advise them on why, where to, and strategy to get there?
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know that I need to know. I don't need to understand the ins and outs of the day-to-day of your business model, or I mean, your business or the disciplines therein to be able to help improve the business. What I need to know is, what are the levers that we can pull? What are the liabilities? What are the assets? Honestly, at the end of the day, all of these things are just numbers on a sheet of paper and confidence and decision-making. And then structure and process to leveraging those pieces. So my point to that is, if it's, I talk to people every day where I've never run their business before, right? Like, I mean, that's a bit hyperbolic, but the majority of people that come to me are businesses that maybe I've been in that vertical, but not their model. And almost everybody's business model is a little bit different. But really it comes down to, okay, starting off with, what is your offer? What is your monetization device for attention? Great. What is your model to maximize the value of it? Okay. Then we back our way into what is the most effective way at driving the highest volume of high quality individuals into that model, and what can we afford? So I think a lot of people, especially when I'm on calls and stuff, discovery calls and audits, they go into a laundry list of everything inside of their business, and 90% of it doesn't matter. What I want to know is, what's your CPA? What's your COGS? What's your LTV? How well do you, how many different items are you optimizing towards, and how well do you know that customer journey? And then what is the volume of resources that you can invest to fixing those problems? And based on that, we can then establish what's the best methodology to begin optimizing that journey. And whether it's selling cupcakes, getting doctor's appointments, slinging protein powders, sneakers, or, you know, $1,000 a month SaaS product, it doesn't really matter, because the business principles of success are always the same. You know, if you watch Shark Tank, you already know what the questions are. How much does it cost? How many are you selling? What did you do? What is this year? Like, it's the same 5 questions every time. And based on that, they know if it's a good investment. And so in that way, like, if you want to think of it that way, I have the same 5 questions every time, right? COGS, CPA, LTV, runway, and objective. And based on that, we can establish everything we need to. All the other finer points, those soft metrics and deeper questions, those are avenues to get us to that answer. And honestly, 85, 90% of them are a complete waste of time, because they will change once you start fixing the front end of your business.
Gotcha. It's clear.
Right on.
It's great. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, you bet. Eric, do you have any questions on that?
No, but there was a question I had, but I was going to ask you. I completely forgot. Yeah, I guess I'll probably have to DM you or something. But good news is I have my friend's brand client call on Monday, and they run basically like a really good business. So I'm going to close them on Monday. And this has been in the works for months now. So like they're like, oh, we want to actually onboard you and figure this out on Monday. So wish me luck on that.
Yeah, man, go get paid. Yeah. Calvin and I have seen it for months, man. We want you to win.
No, this one has been in the works for the longest time. It's called Pleasures. It's a clothing brand, but they do really well. So they started in wholesale, and now they're like really trying to scale up to direct to consumer. So what are your thoughts on slowly weaning off wholesale? Like, for instance, my opinion on that is, like, I asked you the question before when I asked, it was like, they basically sell to other retail stores, and they put those other retail stores put Pleasures as Google Shopping ads onto their site. And we had the discussion. I was like, is it even worth me putting on any shopping or search campaigns if they're doing the advertising for us?
That's a great question. If you can get other people to make the money for you, I don't know that it's terribly important for you to do it. I think it's a good situation.
Obviously like they're getting their wholesale price and they're marking up to their, you know, suggested retail. But if the numbers make sense, where we can slowly wean off wholesale and actually collect the data and, you know, at least get their emails in and get them in our list. And then if the numbers make sense as far as like, hey, we're saving more money by doing this, I mean,
yeah, the red flag for me
Yeah.
is that you're letting the wholesalers take the low hanging fruit, which is cutting into your margin of total sales volume. If they're the ones advertising on your branded terms and building you up and making those sales, you're selling a $10 product. It costs you $10. You sell it to them for 20. They retail it for 40, right? Typical markup. My question is, instead of making $10 profit, I'd rather spend $15 to acquire that customer because I'll make $15 profit on top of my $10 cost.
Yeah.
So using a case study example, Snow lets everybody do everything except mine the bottom of the funnel. He hires out agencies to do all the top and middle for him. And then he just takes the bottom. And I mean, clearly he's successful at it. So my ultimate argument with this is, I think the downside of it is that you might have a steady stream of revenue that is hard to wean yourself off of. The upside of this conversation is, if I can land those customers myself, I'm willing to pay a higher acquisition cost because instead of, I have the larger margin, right? And that's honestly what I want to lean into. And, you know, to reference what we were just talking about, it's that CPA COG divided by LTV conversation. If your LTV is $20 and it costs you 10, great, you're making $10. But if the other person's LTV is, say, is 40 and their COG is 25, paying you the 10 plus 15 for the sale, they're making $15. So you're making $10 to help somebody else make 15 when you could be making 15 or 20. So it really comes down to, I would lean on wholesalers if that's not a discipline that you're able to do. But in direct to consumer, one of the biggest unfair advantages of direct to consumer advertising is you don't need to worry about the margin for retail and wholesalers. You get to use that margin to acquire the customer yourself. And generally speaking, that markup should be about 400%, give or take. It costs you $10, you sell to the wholesaler for 20, manufacturer suggested retail $39.99. That's a good general gist of the average experience, right?
Yeah.
So the advantage of direct to consumer is, if it costs you 30 to make that sale, $20 to make the sale plus 10 on the cost of goods, you're doing the exact same as the wholesale. And then all you need to do is get 5% better, 10% better. And it's basically like just charging the wholesale people more money. So, you know, for me, I like that stream of revenue because it's super juicy. But at some point you need to own the very bottom of that and work your way up so that you are maximizing your revenue potential. Because it sounds to me like, why can't we spend more money on advertising? And it's because our LTV is half of what it should be. And if we don't own that customer relationship, we're never going to be able to make that next leap outside of, hopefully that user comes and finds us again.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's also to say, like, it also helps, like, that they're you know, doing the top of funnel by, you know, promoting our products onto their site. So I mean, there is going to be some leakage of, like, oh, they're going to check out our official site and order from product from us as well. But I see your point. Yeah,
and that leakage should be awesome. It should be that's the business model.
Yeah.
As you want it to leak. you want it to fall down. You're willing to let them get everybody on that first click all day, fine, go for it. But if there's trickle down revenue, that is your entire business could just be that. So your wholesale to them is your operating costs, and the trickle down revenue is all your profit. That's a very simple way of continuing to maximize the value of that relationship.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think it's if I do remember, I had another question, but if I remember it, I'll just DM you. But yeah, I mean, wish me luck on this. They're an 8-figure business, so like they do pretty well.
Well, that's awesome, man. Land that business. I can't
Yeah,
wait
man.
to have an onboarding call for the MBA program.
Yeah, I've been teasing you for like the 10th time, but yeah.
Hey, look, man,
I'm hoping
I
so.
know for a fact you're on board. And as soon as you land
Yeah.
that client, it's going to be a 10-minute call. And I'm super
Even
excited.
less. I mean,
about what it's
we've
gonna look
already
like
discussed
10
the
weeks from
pricing,
now.
so
What's that?
yeah. Hey, you promised me a much more higher touch than the other guy, so I'm gonna keep your word on that.
Okay. Okay. I did. I promised you old program and old pricing, so I intend to keep that.
Great. Yeah.
But all right, man. Well, that is, I guess that's it then. I'm excited. And good luck to you. Thank you again for guys showing up to this stuff. I know not everybody does, but I do know that people go ahead and deep dive into this stuff later, which is great for them. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And you know, maybe I'll just reshoot the first half of this thing as a new YouTube video. I'm committing to making more YouTube videos. I launched one this week. I'm trying to do clips from G2C Coffee Shop, interviews with students and alumni, and at least one dedicated straight video just for lessons, as well as taking all my Twitter threads in video response form and dropping those as things too. So
Well, I'm biased, but I think this was a good topic.
I liked it. I mean, this
I have
is
to rewatch
fundamental.
I mean, I think it's a
Absolutely
great
right.
topic because regardless of your level of experience, this is very enticing that you want, look, God, if I can operate at that level and understand that kind of thing, and then I also would know how to execute. I mean, it's enticing to want to know how to then get into the details to execute.
Yeah. So I'm glad to be helpful, man. That's what I'm here for. Cool.
Appreciate it.
I will talk to you all later. Best of luck to you. Have a great afternoon, great weekend. And next Friday, I'm going to be traveling. So I'll see in my calendar if I can't squeeze this in on Thursday instead. I did that webinar, so my calendar is fucking slammed, but we'll see what we can't do to make this happen.
Oh yeah, Charlie, I do remember the. Sorry to.
All right, cool.
Just real quick. Yeah, I remember you talking about putting a UTM for every sale or every lead for your past clients. How do you do that? As far as you said, you put like UTM something Charlie, and you made sure that like you took credit for every sale or every lead that you provided for the client.
Yeah. Generally speaking, what I'll do is it's not so much a UTM. If I can own the landing page, i.e. it's like a subdomain or a variant of the page, a duplicate that's got my name on it, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then every lead that comes through that is tagged as coming from this page. And then I'm the only one driving traffic there. I can prove the direct efficacy of my efforts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, y'all. With that, I'll see you guys later. Go ahead and like my reels, retweet me, do everything that's completely selfish for me to look better. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later.
Cheers, Charlie.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you.